Right, so what we're going to look at now is our database structure. So this is the structure of our database. We have 5 tables, but more or less we have 4 entities. We have a user entity, orders, products, and categories. So under users, you can see that user ID is the primary key and all the details about a user, including a hashed password and role. Then you'll see we have an orders table with the date, whether it's been paid or not, and who it belongs to. Then the categories, you can see there's a table for categories as well. And then products, you can see the products table has what the product's name is, the cost, the price, the quantity in stock, and a picture. So you'll notice the picture is a long blob. So we're storing it as a binary object in the database. This is not standard practice in industry, but in our case we're doing it because it makes our code a bit easier. So if we look at the relationships between the tables, we can see that one user can place many orders. If we look at categories, one category can have many products. One product can be in many orders, and one order can have many products. So that's the structure of our database. And what we're going to be looking at next is a way to structure our project. So to structure our project, we're going to be using a pattern called Model View Controller. So if we look at this diagram here, we have a client and a server. So on the client computer, we have a browser such as Chrome, which receives HTML and processes it and displays it. It can also run JavaScript files in the browser. So it will receive the JavaScript file, and if necessary, the JavaScript can make requests and actually receive data back. We also have a CSS in the browser which allows us to style the HTML with different colors, layout, etc. So the client communicates with the server. It makes a request to the server, and the server responds to the client. On the server, we have a web server made up of Apache plus PHP, and we have a database which is MySQL. So normally we would just request a page and it would have all of our code in the same document. This can get quite messy because we have PHP, HTML, everything mixed up together, including our database access. And it can be difficult to understand and difficult to make changes to. So the idea with Model View Controller is to separate these things into separate files. So your database access only happens in certain files. Your pages are only in certain files, and your templates are in different files. So the way it works is the client makes a request to the server, and it will speak to a controller. A controller will then load a page, and in this page will be loaded templates. These templates can generate the HTML using models. And the models have PHP functions in them which can request data from the database and put data into the database. Sometimes it's not that common, but sometimes the controller can also request information from the models. The controller is responsible for handling the requests, and what it does is it will receive a request, decide which page to display, if any pages, or to redirect the user. The controller can receive post and get variables and make decisions based on that, what to show the user. So what we have here is the models, that's the M, models. We have the view, that's the pages and templates, and we have the controller. Right, so let's look at the home page to see what the different parts are. So if you look at our home page here, you'll see that the file is called index.php that we're requesting. So if we look in our project folder, that's this file here, index.php, which is a controller. So these are all controllers. These are the PHP files that we make requests to. So if we look at the index.php, which is this file here, you will see that there's not a lot in it. That's what we requested here. So where did all of this come from? Because this is the only code in index.php. So what you'll notice is this is a controller, and at the top of every controller we check if there's a session, and if not, we start one. We also include our utility functions.php file, which has some useful functions, such as a function to redirect the user, etc. These two are not actually used here, but I just by standard put it at the top of every controller in case I need it. Then what we see here is an include for homepage.php, which is in the pages folder. So if we look in the pages folder at homepage.php, you'll see this is the HTML. So we request from index. Index loads the page, and on the page it loads templates. So let's look at this template here, which is nav template in the templates folder. So if we look at the nav template in the templates folder, which is over here, you'll see here's where that navigation menu is generated. So we'll show a certain menu if a user is logged in. We'll show a different menu if it's a user logged in. And finally, we'll show a different menu if it's the admin who is logged in. What you'll notice here is there's no database access happening here in the template, or session access. Well, a little bit here. So all our database access is done through these functions, such as is a user logged in, get users role, get users role. These are functions which are found in a different file. These are found in the users.php file. So in order for us to use these functions, we must include this file in the models, users.php. So if we look at the models and we look at users.php, you'll see that this is where our database access is done. So there's our different functions, such as a function to log in, a function to log out, to check if a user's logged in, to get the user's role, to get a list of users, etc. So there's no HTML in here. The only thing we have is PHP functions to send data to the database or to receive data from the database. So, for example, if you look at this get users function, it does select star from users, gets an array, a two-dimensional array of all the users, and sends it back to whoever called this function. We can also, for example, insert a user. We give the function all the values for that user. It will run an insert query and return whether it's successful or not, true or false. So there's only responsibility of the model is to provide functions to send data to the database or to receive data from the database. So let's quickly recap. When you visit the home page, you make a request to index.php, which is a controller. That includes a page, homepage.php. The homepage.php includes templates, and the templates include models so that they can use these different functions to get the data they need to create this HTML. And those functions are in these models. Right, so now that we've got a basic overview of model view controller, let's have a look at our folder structure. So in our folder structure, you will notice we have all our controllers in the root folder. These are the pages that users can make requests to directly, but there's no HTML in them at all. So when you make a request to index.php, it loads homepage.php, which is in the pages folder. That homepage.php loads templates from the templates folder, and those templates use models to access data from the database. So we've got our templates folder to hold our templates, our pages folder to hold our pages, and our models folder to hold our models. We also have a folder called includes, which includes our dbconnect.php for making the connection to the database. It also has our utility functions.php file, which has the redirect function, PHP redirect function, which we use in a lot of our controllers. It also has two authorization includes to check if there's a user is authorized or not. So then we also have our CSS folder with our CSS files, our image folder with our image files, our JavaScript with our JavaScript files. Our JavaScript files at the moment, we've only got one in there, which is utilityfunctions.js, and that is used by the browser. So it's JavaScript functions which are useful to run in the browser. Then we also have this file here called .htaccess. The reason we have this is because we want to limit, we use it to limit access by clients to certain folders. So we only ever want clients to visit the controllers or to make requests from the controllers. We don't want them to get pages directly or templates directly or models directly. So what we're going to do, or includes directly. So what we want to do is we want to prevent internet access to includes, models, pages, and templates. CSS, image, and JavaScript should be available because the browser needs to download files from those folders. But the browser should never need to download anything from this folder, this folder, this folder, or this folder. So let's look at that .htaccess file here, which will prevent access to those folders. So this is the code in there. It's not very simple to understand, but you don't need to understand how it works, just what to do to use it. So in here we've got the includes, models, pages, and templates. So includes or models or pages or templates. These will be restricted and we won't be able to access those from the client. Then the last option here, options all dash indexes, is to prevent us from seeing an indexed page when we visit a folder. So for example, sometimes when you visit a folder, you might see something like this, which shows us what files are in that folder. What this does is prevent that from happening because we don't really want users to be able to do this either.